The FedProfits Association presents Thrive in the Recession through the power of no-bid contracts. And now, here's your host, Mr. Supercharged Profits himself, Ron Imbach.
Hello, and welcome again to another episode of Thrive in the Recession through the power of no-bid contracts. I'm your host, Ron Imbach, Mr. Supercharged Profits. And I hope you've really been enjoying the show so far. Every time I do one of these episodes with a new guest, I really get excited because I know they've got some great information to share about the incredible experience they have or just new knowledge about what's going on in federal contracting. And I'm incredibly excited today to have for my guest on the show, Mkale Warner. Mkale is the Chief Operating Officer of, and I want to make sure I get her organization right, CrossPurpose. I think that's what it is, of CrossPurpose, and that's a nonprofit organization. We're going to talk a little bit about that later, but I always like to get started on the program by talking a little bit. I think it's important for our audience to see folks that are in a very similar situation to where they are right now or what they're thinking about doing or something like that. And Mkale has an incredible story to tell about her journey getting into federal contracting, her first experience with my partner, Chip, when she met him, and then so forth. So, Mkale, I would like to welcome you today. How are you?
I am wonderful, Ron. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and thank you for the welcome.
Great,
Glad to be
great.
here.
And Mkale comes to us right now from beautiful Colorado, just outside of Denver. And I have to admit, I haven't been out there in a number of years now. I'd love to go out there again sometime soon because I love it. I actually love it in the summer and in the off season for Colorado because of the whitewater rafting and you know, all of those things, the hiking and all the outdoor stuff you can do. So it's a beautiful place. So
well, it is
thank
growing
you.
and booming, so you'll have to get back out here and hang out with us.
I'll have to do that. Absolutely. Mkale, I know, let's talk a little bit about your background in business, owning your own business. And then in addition to that, let's talk about what to say, you know, I think federal contracting would be a good thing for me to get into.
Sure. So I have been in the real estate industry in some shape, form, or fashion for the last 25 years. And then my husband, when the recession happened back in 2008 and all the things that took place there, my husband and I actually ended up starting a meat market. We found out that, you know, regardless if you're in a recession or not, people will have to eat, and the government will make sure that they do that. So it was and my husband actually was starting it, and because real estate was doing what it was doing, you know, I just said, hey, I want to come and help you and see what you're doing. We were business partners in real estate at that time. And then from there, of course, we just began to open up the business and went and opened up a location that had a 30-year history as a meat market. So it was really cool because we would have like multi-generational families come in. It would be the grandmother, the mother, and the child all shopping at the same place. It was just a really cool environment. So that's how we started even getting into the government contracting piece or started that level of the conversation was through food services.
Great, great. Now, now I know you kind of made the decision. I'd like to get into federal contracting. I think that'd be a great market for us. We know all about. We talk on the show here about just how much money the federal government spends. I mean, last year over $760 billion on procurement contracts. So we know it's a huge market, biggest potential client anyone can have. But your first attempts getting into federal contracting, just kind of let me know how that went and how, you know, if you just immediately, bam, snap the fingers, you had all kinds of success. Is that how it worked?
I laughed because now I can laugh. Then I was crying. It was comical. Now it's comical. My initial introduction into it was we were having some conversations around how to take our business to the next level. Of course, I come from real estate, so I'm used to selling or working with high priced items. And I'm like, okay, how do I take those skills are still transferable. How do I take what I know there and bring it into the business that we have? And so what I thought about was, okay, that means that we just need to sell a lot of one product. What does that look like? How do we get into a place where we can sell 50,000 pounds, 100,000 pounds versus just 2 pounds, right? To the public. And so started having that conversation, went down to the SBA and had a couple of appointments there and figured out that we qualified for, some of some particular designations that would serve us and get us to a place where we thought we would be able to really get into government contracting. We were referred to a consultant by someone who worked in the SBA. And it failed miserably. I mean, and let me just say, I'm a process person. I come from the lending world, so processing loans, paperwork, that kind of stuff. That's partially what I've done the majority of my life, and so I didn't feel like it would be that difficult to do. Now, I knew that it wouldn't. I didn't think it would be easy either. Don't get me wrong, but I didn't think it would be impossible. And so it just failed miserably. We saw contracts of 50,000 pounds of one product. So we saw the contracts that were there, but the ability to actually realize that contract, be able to bid on it, or even get into this no bid conversation, and then to realize a profit off of it, it just seemed impossible. I walked away very discouraged. I walked away saying, this is impossible. I don't believe it. I believe that, it's probably designated for the people who have friends on friends. And, I just kind of bought into that narrative because I was just so discouraged at that point. And when I met Chip, I told him so. I said, I don't believe this is possible. And I met Chip through score.org where he had an in-person talk about no bid contracting, and I saw it and I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna go just for kicks and giggles, but just not a believer. And when I went to Chip and I talked to him, and I said, after he'd given his presentation, I said, it's all well and dandy, and I really appreciate what you said. With all due respect, I don't believe that it's possible. And I told him a little bit about my experience, and he was like, well, he said, I believe that you can do it. He gave me some encouragement, and he was like, I get it. I know where you're coming from. There is a way to do it. And here's the information. And so because he let me kind of, I've been it a little bit. I'm not one that will dwell on the past. I know what happens, but I did want to value and honor my own experience. And so because he allowed me to do that, it just gave me an opportunity that I was like, okay, I'm going to try it out. I'm going to try it out and see. And so I signed up.
So you signed up, you got into the no bid program. The great part of the story is, I mean, you and I have become friends through FedProfits and through
Sure.
Chip. And I can tell how close you and Chip are whenever we get on a chat or a talk together. But to have started off with essentially the skeptic, the cynic, who comes to one of his events, and then literally he said I don't know if he's ever had anyone, he said, that strongly come to him after he gives a presentation and tell him this doesn't work. What are you talking about? I know it doesn't work. So
yeah,
that's a great story.
I was hurt. But he made a believer out of me, though.
He made a believer out of you.
Absolutely.
Now, let's talk a little bit about let's talk a little bit about the relationships, because that's what the no bid program is. Because if anyone hears no bid federal contracts, and by the very nature that they're no bid, they're non-competitive.
Right.
Okay. What they tell you. We're going to pay you $100,000, $50,000. Here's what you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that's the very nature of no bid contracts. So as I tell all of the people I talk to, and when we give master classes, and I've said it on here, on our show many times, you have to build relationships to get no bid contracts. So talk a little bit about how, that building relationships, and also what you learn through FedProfits about building, because remember you mentioned process.
Mm-hmm.
You're a process person because of the work you've done with loans. It very much is a process. It is a
It is.
very systematic approach to building relationships. Can you talk a little bit about those things?
Absolutely. What I learned, particularly through Chip's program through FedProfits, was around the relationship building. Now, relationship sales is what I've done pretty much all of my life because I come from the commercial lending space. So, you have to dig into people's business. You have to get into their, you just have to get into certain things, and so you have to really build trust and build that relationship. And so when he just kind of methodically laid that out in his process, it made a lot of sense to me because
Mhm.
I come from that world and it was very palatable for a person like me. And so and he was absolutely right. Like once you build those relationships, and I love, the way it's taught, how to do it and how to do it effectively, particularly because if you don't know the rules of engagement and you're playing the game, you don't know the rules of the game, you're playing the wrong game, right? And so what part of the value that I got out of the course that I took was knowing what the rules of engagement are when you're talking about, whether it's somebody who is working, who is the actual buyer, or if you're talking to, one of their employees. You have to know the rules of engagement, know what you can't do, and then be
Mhm.
able to build the relationship off of that. Sometimes if you don't, you don't know what you don't know, and so I feel like after taking Chip's class, I got a lot of inside information that people aren't giving out here. You know what I'm saying? Because
Mhm.
if I use how I build relationships from my previous experience, it doesn't always work if you don't have that inside information. Because I come from real estate, so we send big gifts. It's nothing to send someone a
Right.
great gift and say thank you for your business, or just sending them, shopskis or whatever you're doing in order from a marketing perspective. It's nothing to do that. But if you don't know that that's not how it works with the federal government, then again, that could be a problem. And so it really is around building relationships, knowing how to build the relationships. And what I love about what you guys do is you are very strategic in how and who to build the relationships with. Because if
Mhm.
I'm building a relationship with the gatekeeper, and the gatekeeper is never gonna, that's not the decision maker, and the gatekeeper is great, the gatekeeper moves, then what am I going, how do I get to the person who's the decision maker? And so all of those strategies that you all are really big on pushing made the biggest difference for me.
Well, and when you think about, and that's a great point, absolutely. And when you think about how many decision makers there are with the federal, because the federal government is vast. And the
Absolutely.
phrase I like to use is that anyone who has the authority to purchase something for the federal government is a potential client for a
Sure.
small business. Okay.
Yes.
Because they can, whether it's paper clips or whether it's events like you used to do, or food products, or management consulting, or IT services. Okay.
Right.
Soup to nuts across the board. And you know what was the phrase that kept popping in my head as you were talking was building relationships. We always tell folks that if you enjoy building relationships, you're just going to switch. But in switching from commercial, or not switch, but I mean, you're adding, I usually talk to folks about adding another income stream through federal
Sure.
contracting.
Sure.
Um, but you do have to modify, because you mentioned there are rules. The phrase that hopped in my mind was wine and dine. You don't wine and dine federal decision makers. They get in
Nope.
trouble and you're not going to get a contract. So you don't wine and dine in that situation. The other thing that we've found, and I don't know if you agree with this as well, but with most of the members that we have of the association, they found that it takes more contacts to actually get a contract than oftentimes it even does in the commercial sector. Okay,
Sure.
our average is usually around 12 to 16 contacts. With FedProfits, once you got in and you started getting contracts, then obviously, like you said before, it kind of made a believer of you. Oh, this does work. How long did it take you to get to the point that I know you may have even initially started to go, well, this kind of makes sense. I haven't tried this before. But when did you really start make that conversion to, ooh, this definitely works? When you got the first contract, or could you see it even before that?
I could see it before that. The truth of the matter is that after I had that conversation with Chip, I made the decision. I said, you know what? I'm going to trust the process. I'm going to throw out my previous experience with this and trust that he knows what he's talking about, particularly when I heard his background and just kind of his story. And Chip is a very smart man, as you know. So I said, okay, I'm just going to trust the process and allow it to do. And as I started digging into it and getting into the material, it started making sense. And I was like, okay, let me try it. Let me try it. And believe it or not, I don't know if I've told you this part, Ron, but I actually got my first contract during COVID. So if you think about what was happening during that time, everything was shutting down. It was
Hmm.
everything. The world was shutting down, at that point, and it was very difficult to contact people, to get in touch with people. And I was in, like I said, we were in food services, so being able to, we had the meat market and all of that, but we also had the ability to supply cafeterias that were in the federal prisons. And so, of course, with the strategy of who is your biggest buyer that you guys teach, doing everything that the educational moments, so we stay top of mind, so people see you more than because what are people doing? They're sitting at home, they're working from home now, so emails are getting checked now. You know, the things that they weren't doing before because they were out on appointments, things of that nature. It just kind of changed, and so it was almost the perfect storm for me. And so after probably, I think within 3 months, I had my first contract. And then I started getting this thing where people started saying, hey, can you supply me with water? Hey, can you do this for me? Hey, can you do that for me? And that's where the no bid piece came in. They were just like, hey, I need it now. Can you get it to me? And if I could get it to them, I got their P card and got it and got it done right there. And so, but I kind of believe Chip because of who he was and the things that he was saying. And like I said, because he gave me the room to do that. And then when I started digging into the material and saw like how organized it was and just the strategy behind it, I was like, okay, I'm gonna try this. Let me just
Hmm.
get in. And I jumped in with both feet, and the rest is history. I still use it. I have switched into a different profession, and I still use it today. The things that I learned from no bid process.
Now, I'm going to unpack a couple of things real quick because you know this so well, and you throw around a lot of terms like I do sometimes. And sometimes I'll think about it and go, oh, does everyone know what that is? Maybe not. So you mentioned something called a P card. That is a purchase card for those of you who don't know the federal government vernacular. It's the same as essentially a credit card. All
Right.
right. They give you their card. I think most credit card companies, you have to be set up so you can accept the government cards. But it's essentially a credit card, and it helps everybody all the way around. And as long as every agency department has a certain number, that can be 50,000, can be 100,000, can be 25,000, that anything under that amount
Right.
can be purchased directly by the end user, the person in the agency, without needing to go through a buyer. And you know what I think is wonderful about this? This is one of the things that we talk to people about all the time. I've talked about it here on the show, even in the shows we've had before. We'll talk about it more in the future, is just how many things the federal
Sure.
government buys. My phrase, and I like this one because this was originally mine. Okay, Chip didn't come up with this one. So I like to borrow things from him in when I do
Sure.
classes, but I like to come up with my own as well. And here's one of mine. It would take me 30 seconds to tell you what the federal government doesn't buy.
Mm,
It would take me 30 hours speaking nonstop very quickly to attempt to tell you what they do buy.
I love it. Yes.
Okay, because they buy
Everything.
everything.
Yes.
So
Yes.
if you're in the audience, and no matter, I mean, Calais works for a nonprofit now. All right. And she knows that there are government programs that can assist their organization, federal government.
Absolutely.
There are other programs as well in the state and local level, but we're
Sure.
focused on the federal level. And there's so much federal money. What was that number I mentioned before?
700
Last year,
billion.
over $760 billion. I mean, anytime you're talking about $750 billion of procurement spending, I love using words like that. I love to use the trillion. How often do you get a chance to do that?
Right.
But what is so cool about that, they have so much money to spend. And the laws are geared to it. We've talked about those. We'll continue to talk about those a lot on the show. It really is a small business game. Mkale, it's always delightful whenever we get together and we chat. I haven't known you my entire life, but sometimes I feel like I have. So it's really, really enjoyable chatting with you. And I want to thank you again. You've provided some great insight.
I just want to say this, Ron, because I think who you go with does matter. And I think that's what I learned by hanging out with you and Chip. Like, you guys have a heart to really see small businesses win. It's not just a business for you. You have the heart behind it. And so I really appreciate that, because I have seen the other side, and that's what I experienced before, was those who are just in it for the money, in it for whatever their own goals and incentives were. But you guys have a heart to see people win. And so I just want to say thank you, because you've been instrumental in helping me win, helping my business win, and we're still winning. And I'm still using the information that I have. It is something that I will take with me through the rest of my life. I don't believe in retirement. So, through however long I live, I'll be using
Long
it. So
time.
thank
We
you.
want you to live a long life.
So thank you so much for what you do, Ron.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
Well,
and Chip
Mkale,
both.
thank you so much for those kind words. And, you are right. That's our heart. That's our why. We really want to help small businesses succeed. We're a small business ourselves. And quite frankly, I've worked with small businesses, Mkale, probably pushing 40 years now. Okay. I'm an old guy.
You're dating yourself now, Ron.
Well, once again, Mkale, it's been so much fun. I appreciate it. Thank you for your insight, and thank you for just being a great friend of FedProfits throughout the years. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. You guys enjoy your day.
Thank you. You too. You too. And I want to thank all of you for joining us again on our show, Thrive in the Recession Through the Power of No-Bid Contracts. We try to provide an interesting guest every week to try and help you. We're going to be more technical sometimes. We're going to talk about someone's experience. Other times, we think all of it together is going to give you a real good feel, a real good picture for federal contracting, and whether you as a business owner should consider making this one of your successful income streams for your business. There's a lot of advantages. So that's all I'll say. But anyway, thank you again for joining. We've got a lot of information on the QR code that you're going to see popping up on your screen. So take a look at that if you'd like to check out any of the classes that we offer, or just learn more about my partner Chip Ellis or me and our team, and exactly what's involved in our no bid program and the other things we offer for small business clients. We'd love to talk to you and just give you any information that you need on that. So again, thank you so much for joining. We'll look forward to seeing you next time on Thrive in the Recession Through the Power of No-Bid Contracts. Take care.
Thank you for joining us on the Thrive in the Recession Through the Power of No-Bid Contract show. If you want more information on no-bid contracts, visit us at www.fedprofits.com. We hope that you will join Ron Imbach, Mr. Supercharged Profits, next time as we continue to explore how no-bid federal contracts can seriously grow your business. Be sure to subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts, or visit the FedProfits YouTube channel. Until next time, have a prosperous week.